So, the T app. you know, I had the idea of trying to find my way on the T app, get some tea, um, kind of discuss the concept, go over it. Many other people have gone over the T app. I don't imagine very many people watch this video, to be quite honest with you, but I figured, for the individuals who are curious what my opinion on the T app is, I shall tell you. Now, for those of you who don't know what the T app is I don't want to call it information database, but it's best way to describe it, a rumor message board for women specifically to come together to discuss and talk about men that they have dated. So other women in the area and the environment can check up on this male and compare and contrast stories or obtain a warning of the individual before they engage in him too deeply. Now, what's interesting about this is the grand irony, the dark fate a lot of these women found themselves experiencing, which is to say that the data that they used to prove that they were women, which is to say pictures, and their driver's license, was actually uploaded to, if I understand correctly, a public database URL. I saw this one tweet here that says that they weren't actually hacked specifically, but someone sifted through the code and they found the URL that had the database of all of this information. I've come to realize is closer to the truth of what hacking is, looking through lines of code and trying to find exploits in the security, which is quite interesting. Movies, hacking is all, and then you see all the ones and zeros in the code. I got in! All that. Access now! Access has been denied! Let me out! Then you find out like real life hacking is sifting through a whole bunch of different lines of code and trying to find where there's an exploit or where there's a loop in between different system directories, which is fascinating in its own right, but it's neither here nor there. It's really kind of just important to kind of highlight the shoddiness of this app, really, like down to the code that has created it. It's crappy, thing is some BS if you were to ask me. So here's the thing, right? To conclude my summation of the T app, it was a database for women, database using the term loosely, or rumor board, a forum might be the best simile for it, or comparison, for women to speak about males that they've already dated, to warn other women about those males. And it's caused quite the kerfluffle. Obviously I don't think this is reflective of all the tens of thousands or millions actually of users on the T app, but there's this one hilarious meme I saw. Now obviously it's probably curated, but it's still for a comedic effect. I want to be fair, but I do think there's a point illustrated here. There's an image that had the males that were on the T app, and then you compare it to the females that were on the T app. It goes a little bit deeper. Someone made a game with all the released images of the ladies, of like who you would pick, right? I actually haven't interacted with that game up to the point I recorded this video, but it's to be frank, it's immature. It's immature. I mean, if I'm going to spend my time playing a game, it's going to be Fate Grand Order. I'm not going to compare and contrast, mid women because they use the app. It's a bit much. But the point being made, right? The point being made is that for as much, or at least we can expand the conversation slightly, for as much disdain and vitriol that is spat out for, as we saw in our previous video, the chopped man thing, we find that there are very many normal women, overweight women, short women. Women are just normally short. there's just a lot of women that really aren't high tier being really upset with men. Yeah, so the general thought is that for as much, and I mean I guess this is kind of fairly obvious, but I guess to thread the logical point out at least, um, there's a mismatching of the type of women who find themselves on the T app and the type of men they find talking about on the T app. And it kind of visually confirms more and more that the type of males that they find themselves extremely frustrated with are not a bunch of geeks, not a bunch of noids, not a bunch of slow and weak-willed males. No, and there's a few images. If you kind of zoom in, you can find a few images of the males. Like they're gym goers. They're like strong V taper having gym going. Some of these dudes are just pretty handsome, to be fair. Some of them they're kind of all right guys. I can kind of determine just with my ability to pattern recognize what they're not are. And well, I guess maybe there's like one picture of a guy I think you could probably say is ugly, but overwhelmingly these guys they're not like low tier males, and that's kind of the point really. And in comparison to the women, now again, is this a fair summation of all the millions of people? Probably not, but I do think it is attempting to illustrate a point that we have an app where women are crying about Chad. Like the T app is best described as women's close encounters of the Chad kind. In fact, there's a lot of close encounters with the Chad kind that very many women find themselves lamenting and being frustrated at. In fact, there's just a lot of like TikTok videos where women are complaining about men. I'm just going to be honest with you. It just sounds like absurd nonsense to me. Like these niggas exist in a realm beyond, right? It sounds like they're talking or describing just straight demons, monsters of which have come from the abyss of which to cause only this suffering and misery. And what's interesting kind of about it, I think there's many things to say, but my immediate thought again is this is just the last 10 years have really gone out of its way. Just really gone out of its way to kind of venerate all of the observations of the Manosphere or red pill, black pill, incel type individuals. It's kind of fascinating. I'm going to be really honest with you. What just kind of bothers me is for as much veneration and confirmation that has come from all of this nonsense, people still operate in their nonsensical delusions. Because you have to think about this from just a mathematical, realistic, common sense approach. Like, team, let's just do the math on this one reasonably, right? If it was mostly, some people will fall to the wayside, whether they're overweight or ugly, but let's say, or maybe they're just an unpleasant individual, and rightly so, no one wants to be around them. But let's say if it was an even keel, right? Yeah, we'll say 49, 48 to 52 to 51 type of males and females finding themselves together, right? Let's just say mathematically, if it was roughly equivalent, the T-app cannot exist. Why? Because only 2 to 3 women would ever be able to discuss being with one male. How is it even functionally or mathematically possible that women could go on to the T-app as if it were a Yelp for people, which in hindsight, that's probably a much better analogy for what the T-app is. But anyway, how is it possible that women could come onto this Yelp and discuss one male if they weren't all interacting with this male in some particular way? That's, of course, assuming that these stories are true, which we'll circle back to that in a moment. But if we were to take this at face value, then again, it is confirming that you have numerous women. Is it 10? Is it 20? I don't know. But it's numerous women funneling up to specific males in their environment. Now, is it like a legitimate or reasonable, like you would say, 80-20 split? Not really. Even back in the day when I made my first observation of the 80-20 rule, it was never really a rule, at least. I have thought more accurately, you'd get it closer to like 35-65. The point that's being illustrated, right, is that like women and their relationship to players or to attractive males is that they do, interestingly enough, put themselves in a subservient follower-esque position to their attraction or their lust for these men. As such, it makes them act like plumb straight fools. Much in the same way, a simp would act in a plumb straight foolish way for a woman he finds attractive. To be honest with you, closer to my observations about the premium that we've placed on sexual attraction in our relationships, it causes people to overvalue and to stretch themselves thin. Again, because they highlight, or at least they make the foundation for their entire relationship with a member of the opposite sex to be their desire to smash them. It's quite fascinating that very many people don't understand that the romantic imperative that we have created is not actually one built upon appreciation and care and selflessness for a human and your desire to prove that you will be a great life partner for them, but it really is just kind of earning their favor to smash, right? And women do the same thing, or ironically, it's more women attempt to use their ability to smash to earn the favor of males. It's interesting because in a way it is reversed. Now this is important because this is what causes so much of their spite, and this is when we get into all of the different just the ways the T-app could just be used nefariously, much in the same way Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook pages. And I guess another analogy could have just been that. If you guys are familiar, it's another one of those close encounter with the Chad kind type of pages on Facebook, where again, and men have their own variant of this too, which is just kind of, anyway, the whole thing is just it's just messy and nasty. But essentially, to complete the thought for you all who are not in the know, I apologize. The idea of the Facebook group or forum is, again, young ladies or maybe old ladies would post a picture of a male they're dating, and then they would ask for information on him. And the irony isn't lost on me that an app which was supposed to house a database of multiple different men's pictures where women spread information about them finds itself being hacked, and now the women find themselves displayed on the internet with people having information about them. The whole thing is kind of shoddy. The whole thing is kind of ironic, and it's quite humorous in that way, at least. But it's damning in the way that an app like that, it seems kind of fascinating to me that the individuals who made the app, you can see how stupid they are, again, with the coding and how they developed it. But more importantly than that, it's like they didn't think that this could be used nefariously, that an individual that is spiteful could get on, an individual that's just abusive. I could get on the T-app and isolate a male from being able to date other women that she's still quite interesting enough in a relationship with, by spreading a lot of nonsense with him, effectively cutting off any ability for him to move on from her. What, we didn't think about that? Or maybe you did think about that and you said, "Oh, who cares?" That's kind of how it had to have gone, right? It had to have gone like where we just pretend that all of the women that would have been able to interact with the app or entertain the app would have been the most forthright, honest, people who really had the best intentions of other women to avoid all of these demons of whom they've summoned from hell. It would have been like you would have had to just believe, and this says everything in itself, doesn't it? You would have really had to believe that any woman on this app would have had the best intention for women, but not the best intentions for the man that they were having sex with. You see, there's layers to this that people don't consider. There's layers to this that people do not think or entertain too much, now do they? Is it not strange? Is it not strange that there is this sisterhood, feminine solidarity with individuals of whom you know nothing about but the fact that they share your same genitalia? And yet somehow you shared a bed with the male of whom you are about to lambast on the internet. You find more solidarity with an individual that you don't know, who simply is your same gender, than the person you went to bed with. Does that not seem off key? See, when we write it down on paper, does that not sound like absolute bloody nonsense? It should, because it is absolute friggin' nonsense. It is nonsensical. Now, to be honest with you, make no mistake, this is not a gender thing. Women operate like this more often, but are there males who operate in the same capacity? Yeah. And it's disgusting. It's peculiar. It's strange. And yet no one calls it out for as peculiar and strange as it is. This gender war solidarity thing we have with individuals, right? This collectivism we have on categories, but not a collectivism we have on moral character. Not a collectivism that we have on actual actions, on actual relationships that have been forged through good and bad times, that have been forged through trust and care and compassion to some degree. The point that I'm making, ultimately, is that the T-app is foolish in many different areas. And in the area of which any nefarious person could just spread lies on someone, there's no oversight to it. There's no protection to it. That reputation destruction cannot be blocked. It can't be really fought against realistically. I mean, you know, the whole thing gets called into question even when other males get on, say, they get on TikTok. And I did a little bit of research where they say they find themselves on the T-app, right? Or, you know, how much of that information can be verified that the person making the video isn't just jumping on a trend, right? And now then there's just that question of how much of this is performable on the internet. Who knows? Now, some people have receipts and whatnot, right? They have videos or they'll have different clips and you know, all that goofiness that that you, I guess, unfortunately sometimes need in order to kind of prove your innocence and on the internet these days. Excuse me. But the fact remains that the app in its nature and in its principle creates an environment, or it creates a world where people, honestly, mostly unfortunately, because it was made for women and women were using it, it does open the door for just a lot of reputation destruction and just lies and chicanery. But there's also the third aspect of the T-app I feel I would be remiss to point out, which is probably more my first point, kind of 1.5, I guess you could say. And that if it is the case that these women have dated a lot of these crappy males, I'm just going to glaze myself for a moment. But how many years have I been talking about this? At what point are you fools going to learn? I just find it fascinating. Like, when are you dumbasses gonna figure this shit out? These are grown ass women, bro. This is what I understand. The immaturity level. You're an adult female. And I've been told just recently. I was on a debate. I was told that women, on a genetic level, they have to pick a male who is a provider. Why? Because they have to deal with the fact that they can be impregnated. They have to deal with the fact that they can be incapacitated. It's genetic. It's built inside of them. The reason why they're hypogamous. Oh, baby. Oh, they have no choice. They have to be hypogamous. They have to. They can't do anything different. And then you look at this shit that they do, and it's like, so let me get this one straight. This crappy male who verbally abused you, cheated on you numerous times, spent all of your money, couldn't hold down a job. You thought that was the person whom should impregnate you, and he'd be a great father. That's what you thought on a genetic level. That's you. You're over here talking smack, all that good, spilling the tea, as they say. Since the namesake of the app, of this man of whom you absolutely despise, this man who treated you so horribly, you're going to tell me that your ability to mate select is high key. We're talking about the destiny of the human species. We're talking about you picked this crappy male you're on the internet talking shit about because you thought he'd be a great See, because I'm gonna be honest with you. If it is the case, man, then let humanity die. I said it, guys. I said it. Pack it up, like rat. Just pack it up, man. Because we're good on that. whole human race thing, if you're going to tell me that the modern female is their genetic encoding is so fried, is so stupid, their hypergamy is so goofy that they need an app on the internet to instruct them, hey, the tattoo super ripped douchebag motorcycle motherfucker doesn't care about you, doesn't like you, will use your body and then abandon you. You needed a review. You couldn't ascertain that through an interaction with the motherfucker. It's just impossible. You couldn't pattern recognize. There's just no way of which you could ever possibly figure this out. You couldn't just talk to the nigga like a normal motherfucking person. You couldn't have just interacted with him on a normal base. Nah, it's impossible because these niggas are all masters of subterfuge. No, they're not. People don't understand this. But again, this all goes back to an overvaluing of sexual attraction. People don't recognize this reality. And it's actually something that was kind of picked out to me. I was listening to an old Rap Critic song called Oh My God. And it's actually kind of interesting because one of the lyrics kind of pointed out that when you like someone or you're attracted to someone, you give them implicit trust. It probably explains why a lot of these women feel so betrayed by Chad, Tyrone, and the alpha males, right? Because of that implicit trust you give to people that you find attractive or people that you desire sexually, it feels like a betrayal when they don't measure up to those expectations that you gave them. That is, of course, interestingly enough, to have compassion for the object of your affection, unfair to them. Most people don't think about that. Why? Because, to be quite honest with you, to care about someone's sexual attractiveness to you, it is in and of itself selfish. So the idea that you then think to yourself, well, it's unfair for me to put them on this high pedestal and give them expectations higher than I reasonably should give to this person. Of course you wouldn't think like that because, let's just be honest, your concern with their beauty or their handsomeness is selfish. You're not here because you want their life to be better, nigga. You want them to make your life better, to either make your WAP flow or to make your PP hard. And it's a reality people have to accept. It isn't to villainize your sexual desire for someone. That's not the point. The point is to understand that all of these things have to interact together, right? You can't have a car with just an alternator. Well, what's an alternator? An alternator is the part of the car that converts mechanical energy into electrical energy that keeps the car on. Some people don't even know what an alternator is. That says everything. There are multiple elements to a car that people don't concern themselves or think about, but they get into the car and drive it. This is a relationship. That's the analogy. There are multiple aspects and elements that have to work together. And sometimes it's a piece that you can kind of do without. Sometimes it's a piece that's extremely critical. So all of these things have to work together. It's fair that you have to find the person to some degree attractive. They can't be repulsive. Okay, fine, fair enough. But it's also fair that you can't overvalue that. It can't be more important than their character. And that's what the T-app is just showing us. That honestly, ultimately, all of these women have all these dumbass, stupid experiences with men to talk about if it were true, because they overvalued the individual when they really shouldn't have. Again, if all of the different regaling and the tales or all of that is true, and this isn't at worst reputation destruction from ladies who are spiteful. And to be fair, it's probably both. Realistically, it's probably both. Some of these accounts probably are true. Fair enough, due to the complexities of reality. Some of these accounts are also probably reputational destruction, lies, or stretching, embellishment. Just a little bit of salt and pepper. Just a little bit of that paprika put on there to make it seem worse than what it was. Let's just be real. That probably occurs on that app as well. Same way it happened in the Facebook group. Are we dating the same guy? The fact remains that, like, realistically, this having a Yelp review site for a human is stupid, right? The fact that numerous people have to be on the dude, again, vindication to the 80-20 rule that I have observed over the very many years. And finally, it's hitting the mainstream finally. I just find it fascinating that I just find it interesting that women, it's not clicking. It's not clocking to them. It's not clocking to them that maybe they should reevaluate what they're doing if everyone keeps observing that you idiots. Now we have another app. We have another one. We already had Are We Dating the Same Guy? Now we have the T app. We have another one of you guys all talking about the same nigga. When will it clock, bro? When will it, what has to happen? When will it clock to you motherfuckers? What has to occur before you niggas wake up and say, maybe this is on us. Maybe, bruh, maybe we're bugging. When is it gonna hit y'all? Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Goodness gracious. But to wrap up the video, I mean, I don't think there's much to be said about the T app. I think it's stupid. I think it's unfair. I think it's unreasonable. I don't think that an equivalent for women, we'll call it mileage. No, we'll call it body count. We'll call it the Assassin's Guild. I think the T app itself is, to be quite honest with you, extremely immature. I don't think having a Yelp review site where you could possibly reputation destroy people is something that should ever be encouraged, considered, given support for, let alone an app developed for. I think it's absurd. I think it's ridiculous, and I don't think it's fair. I think that there's no oversight, there's no verification, none of that exists, and it only really exists, again, to reputation destroy. It is to take that which is supposed to be intimate and to display it to other people. It is to take that which is supposed to be between two individuals, whether abusive or whether positive, and to then air it out to other individuals of whom the other person who's being aired out has no control over. They have no oversight. They have no real defense against it. Say if they go for perhaps the Apple Store, they go through the Apple development cycle, and maybe they can, find some way to remove your information. Who knows, really, but it's a lot for nothing, right? It's a lot for nothing to avoid being lied on or being chicaneried by some spiteful woman who, I mean, shoot, is it because you actually did her wrong? Maybe you did. That's something the two of you need to figure out. It's not something that other people who have never talked to you, never given you the opportunity to grow and change, should ever have to address or ever have to face off or figure out. Not unless, of course, the nigga has a criminal record. And even then, him having a criminal record, one, will probably make him more attractive to low-class women anyway. So it's not like it'd be more like advertising the nigga, not really discouraging women from being with men like that. I say this because if it was discouraging in and of itself, you wouldn't need the bloody T app in order to point that out, because you'd learn about it eventually. The point is, right? Women need to stop having sex with the same guys. Like, come on. Like, that really, that it all comes back down to that. Women need to stop finding themselves in relationships with men of the same piss-poor character. And as such, they wouldn't find themselves needing the goddamn T-app in order to tell them that the male that they're with ain't shit. Again, is this reflective of everyone? Let's be fair to the complexities of reality and be humble. Okay, maybe this isn't every nigga that these women have been with. And maybe some is Poindexter. Some of these guys are a geek. Some of these guys are dweebs, right? But you look at the pictures of the males. Let's be real. It's not a dork that they're crying about. It's not a white knight. It's not a simp that they're bitching about, right? It's Chad, it's Tyrone, it's Chang, right? It's Liu Kang, right? And my concern here, again, is we have another log on the pyre of women chasing after Chad, regaling their stories of a close encounter with the Chad kind, so they can reputation destroy and be upset with men. But here's the truth. Some of these Chads, right? Some of these niggas are just absent-minded dickheads. They do not will for the misery of a woman. They are not cruel individuals of whom only want the woman suffering. Some of them are neglectful, sure. Some of them are selfish, absolutely. But they do not will the pain and misery of these females. However, due to the way that women decide they wish to court men, bombard them with sexuality, a lot of women feel used and betrayed because of it. The sexual zeitgeist has betrayed women. The sexual zeitgeist has created a destructive social environment where they believe that if they find a man attractive and they're willing to have sex with him, he should appreciate that. He should give something to her. There should be some exchange here. Even though sex is not something to be exchanged, and it is a free, fair, flowing activity done by people who find each other attractive, I do find it interesting that when the lady wishes to obtain something, sex becomes a bargaining tool. But sex is also just a laissez-faire activity which is to be done by individuals who just strike a fancy. I do find it interesting how they bounce back and forth between those two ideals. The point is, this app sucks. I don't really think much else needs to be said about that. I mean, I think that I guess there's not much to be done about whether you can be socially destroyed except by being the best male you can be. Number one, being a kind individual. And number two, picking the women that you decide to spend your time with reasonably and also with an understanding of her character and her compassion. You have to make compassion and kindness the most important thing you want from a woman if you wish to avoid this. And I'm not saying that it's easy. What I am saying is that there is some power for you as a male to not be indiscriminate, to not be foolish enough to believe that because you got cheeks easily, that means everything is hunky-dory. It's not. The bill comes due. And you're going to learn rather harshly that if you decide to operate like this to women, the bill comes due. I don't think it's right. As this entire video exists for me to explain, I don't think it's right. But it is an unfortunate reality of how some people operate in our sexual zeitgeist. There's a lot of spite, hurt feelings, anger, mistrust placed. And honestly, if we take a minute, as both men and women, take a step back from all this gender war thing, and we think critically about why are we supposed to be doing this shit in the first place, we're going to find that we don't need no damn T-app to figure this shit out. Don't date criminals. Don't date popular dudes that every woman wants. Stop being a groupie. Stop throwing your body out thinking it will convince a man to be with you. Focus on having good character as a woman, and you're going to find men who also have good character. We have overvalued our sexual desire for people to such an extent that we now have to have a hub database of you trying to figure out which Chad or Tyrone is going to do you wrong. I got to tell you, it's absurd and it's ridiculous. But with that being said, I actually hope you guys got something out of today's video. If you did, I don't know, man, go and click the like button. Now shoot, go and click the subscribe button. Comment in the comments below, and as always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I will see you cool cats soon. Adios.